Hey guys and gals, Jack here from the Survival Podcast with, I don't know, really an Amazon item of the day review, maybe a little addition. I brought you guys the Knipex Cobra pliers last fall, and basically I've been sold on them ever since. They are some of the best made, and I want to say channel lock pliers, because that's like saying Xerox copiers, but channel lock style pliers that I've ever seen. And particularly today, I want to add to a little more information on the two smallest versions, the 4 and the 5 inchers for EDC. And you might think, well, if it's for EDC, obviously smaller be better, and it must be the 4 inches. And the answer is maybe. And it depends. So let's talk about what it depends on. And I think it has a lot to do with how you're going to carry them and what you want out of them. So, right out of the gate, there's very little difference between the two, but there are some key differences other than size. One is that the handles of the 5 inch have these little insulators on them. This doesn't really matter. I don't see you doing high end electrical work where insulation really matters that much. And if you really if you just don't want your hands on metal, because let's say you're going to be out in the cold or something, which is a totally legit reason, a little bit of heat shrink or a little bit of parachute cord or some other cordage, and you could handle that yourself and give it some customization. I don't really think that matters much. The big difference is the 4 inchers, they definitely move up and down on the thing, but they don't lock. They don't lock in place. They're more of just a kind of a sliding release mechanism. And I don't really care that they don't lock, because once you set them where you want them, they're really not going anywhere. And the harder you clamp down, and let's be honest, you can only get so much leverage with those little handles anyway, it ain't going nowhere. What I actually think is less appealing about them from a performance standpoint, and it's not a big deal, but it is an issue, is that if I'm out doing something one-handed, this lock button makes it very easy. I guess I'm off camera there, but it makes it very easy for me to open them with a flick and to adjust the size with one hand. I do not find that to be the case with the smaller tool. That said, there is something to be said for the smaller footprint, and I really want to try to give you scale here in my hand. You see it's not really that much different. Maybe this way would be best, right? So you can see that there's a small amount of difference, but one says 4 inch and one says 5. And I got to tell you, it's probably right at that 1 inch. So there's the handles meet together. That's probably the best view I can give you to give you an idea of scale. This is still very small. And I find myself, whenever I am wearing a jacket, cargo pants, anything where I don't have to stick these in the pants of a pair of jeans where they're rubbing against a wallet or other, like my cell phone or other gear, this is what I tend to want to carry. And I don't know that there would be many instances, other than I want to put this into some kind of a kit or carry pouch, where the size difference is such that I'm willing to give up the performance for the slightly smaller size. Now, let me tell you that the number one thing that I end up using these for is it's putting hoses on and off hose bibs where they tighten up, and you're just like, you should be able to turn it, but you're constantly jacking with the hose, and it's cold out and the hose is stiff and all that. Like, the beauty of these is, as small as they both are, they will both easily, in fact, all the way out, the red-handled ones, the 5 inchers, are too big to really grab the lug of a full-size 3/4 inch hose. These will absolutely do it all the way out. They just kind of barely do it, but they do it. And that's a lot of, grip. About right there where they start to get straight is where you actually get leverage. Just because you can go wider doesn't mean it's very practical. But if you look at something that small with that big of a gap that it can grab, and again, they have these teeth that are like a snake's teeth, and this is what makes these pliers of all sizes so awesome. Those teeth retract, like they're curved back in like a snake's teeth, and that means when you're pushing down with this side on the top, they grab. And how hard do they grab? Check out my other video on them. With a 7.5 inch pair, you can put them on a pipe, and if that pipe will hold you, you can stand on them. A full-size man can stand on these, and they won't slip. These little ones, I don't know that they would endure my weight at their size. Who knows? I'm not going to find out, and it's a pretty small area to step on. But I can tell you this: you will not exceed the grip capacity with the amount of leverage you have. You will not slip with these at all. They just won't. So when might you want to go with the smaller ones? So I know a lot of people have talked about carrying them in their kind of that third pocket in jeans. The little some people call it a change pocket, some people call it a tobacco dip pocket. I don't, whatever it is, that little pocket. The cut of Wrangler jeans that I wear, it's so shallow that neither one will fit in there. So that's a bit unfortunate. They will fit this side down, and they're actually relatively comfortable, but it's so shallow that I'm worried about them falling out. So I started doing some research into if you're going to put together like a little EDC pouch to replace multi-tool and have more functionality, what would it look like? I found this little guy here. There's a million different versions of them. When I looked at all the aspects of it, such as having a Velcro option so they can come on and off a belt, but also having a non-Velcro second loop, which I think is really important because Velcro over time tends to get weaker. And a lot of times these types of pouches, that will fall off. So this is actually stitched. It has two loops. And if you go in the under loop, you give up being able to easily remove it from your belt. You have to take your belt off or whatever, but you know it's not going to come off. I also wanted something that would have enough capacity to make it worth putting something on a bat belt. This is something I really don't do much of anymore. As I got into prepping when I was a lot younger and all, you start wanting all kinds of shit. Next thing you know, you got crap all over you. And I've really tried to minimize to where I might have an EDC, but you wouldn't know it unless you knew to look for it. But this is not obtrusive. It's a reasonable thing to carry like on your weak side so that you can carry your other implements on your strong side. What I like about it is it has two external pockets for pens or pen-like things. One has an open bottom. That allows me, I'll talk about this in just a second, to carry this screwdriver. It's made by Klein. I love this thing. Not on T-Spaz yet. I need to get a review done for it. And to carry a pen light. Now, I almost always have this light's big brother in my right pocket, but if you're going to have an EDC kit that you're going to rely on and grab, you should have a light. These two right here, if you are in telecommunications, you're crawling under desks, you're opening wall plates, etc., man, that would do, along with these, just about anything you'd need to do outside of your specialized tool like your punch tools or whatever. So it's really a great workman's trade EDC and an everyman's EDC at the same time. Where we get into a bit of an issue, if we want to carry something like this in this size, and again, when you go much larger than this, I think you start to get into the Batman's utility belt shit. That fits in there perfectly, closes up, and there's plenty of room to put other stuff in there. And if we're going to go to doing this, even though this looks relatively small, it has quite a decent capacity. I probably am going to include a few other things like this little guy here that I'll talk about in just a second. Okay? So, what is the problem with these? To get these to fit in here, you have to like heroically pull down on this pouch and stretch it. And you can get it to close. And I'm sure in good time it would stretch enough that it would close well. It's distorted. It's not going to carry well. And it's going to severely limit the capacity of other things. So you're basically crushing it to pull that flap over. So in that instance, the smaller little guys win. So again, it's all and it depends on how you want to carry your EDC if you want these for EDC. All right. Now, what else do I have in here just for some fun since we're going ahead and do this video anyway? One, I carry, and there's many versions of these. This is a little titanium pry rod, like a pry bar, like a miniature pry bar made out of titanium. So this is incredibly strong because it's titanium for lifting things, getting things out, etc. It's a wonderful little tool. When you're trying to open that door that doesn't have a handle on it and you need to get just a little bit of your fingers on it, anything like that, weapons cleaning, etc. It's also incredibly strong. And basically you have a larger flat tip screwdriver on this side and a somewhat smaller flat tip screwdriver on this side, which can be advantageous even when I show you the other things that I've got here, especially when you have a screw and a nut. I'm just saying. All right. Now, the screwdriver. Why would you need that to be a screwdriver? Because this is the best EDC screwdriver I have found for this type of application yet. If somebody can find me a better one, I would like to know about it. I understand why what I'm about to show you is the case, but it's still like it would be better if it wasn't the case. And that is that the bits in this driver are very small. They're quite small. So a wall plate, for instance, actually has a screw that's would be better off served by a number 2 Phillips, but this will work just fine. And the other side of the screwdriver is also a fairly small, I know it's really hard to see, a fairly small straight. Now there's actually 2 bits that come with the screwdriver, but they are both the same size. Think of it like having a spare or not having to swap them out when I show you what it does. What do I love about this screwdriver? First of all, Klein Tools. Knipex has become kind of the standard by which I judge all other tools. Until I found Kinpex, it was Klein, and I would still say they are both fantastic brands. I'd buy anything from either of them if it was something I needed, and I would probably never have to buy it again unless I lost it. They're just that good. What the screwdriver here with Klein did, though, is very cool. Like if I'm carrying that around with that pointy little thing, I can bend over something and stab myself with it, or poke holes in the bottom of a pouch, or with this, if it's sticking out the bottom, which it does, snag on things, etc. So what they did is they made it so this little guard just slides up, and now it's really not any longer because the tip is just barely inside. There's maybe a millimeter, if that, longer with it extended. And so it carries clean. You got it? Now, the other side of this, though, is there are times, especially with using little tools like this, you need to reach into something. That no bueno. It's thick, gets in the way. Shaft comes out, flips around. It has a second bit in it. And now I have a long shaft precision screwdriver. Obviously, I don't want to carry it that way because it would make it much larger. Boom. And then I want to make sure it's on the right side of my pouch. So that goes there. Streamlight there. And it has this little pouch. I'm not really reviewing the pouch today, but this will come because I think it's a pretty good little pouch for $10. It's got a second little flap in the back so you can actually have separation between the items that you're carrying. And again, since I've just started playing with this just for you guys, really, because I don't know that I'm going to carry this, there's quite a bit of space in there for some other really useful EDC tools. And this, to me, especially if we were to add something like a small saw blade, because one of the nice things in a multi-tool is kind of the blade with the saw on it, little saw blade and a few other things. This would not just replace a multi-tool. This would be much better than a multi-tool and be a lot less bulky than most full-size multi-tools by the time you add the things they don't have, like a light. Because this now has a flashlight, and it could have some other things like some wire and some other things like that, So about the only thing I really like carrying on my belt, though, anymore, other than it's something that might be concealed, is a knife. I try to stay as clean profile as I can. So again, I don't know if this is for me, but I know many of you have no qualms with that, and I think that this would be a good way to go as a base. So I have links to all this stuff in addition to the Knipex pliers and the write-up for them in the video notes below. Take care, guys, and if you have any questions about any of this gear, let me know.